Alright, so while every other robotics company on the planet is trying to teach humanoids how to fold your laundry or hand you a coffee, one American startup just looked at all of that and said, nah. We're going to arm ours. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not clickbaiting you. The CEO literally said on the record that they're strapping lethal capabilities onto their humanoid robots. Soon. And the person helping steer this whole thing? Eric Trump, the president's son. This is real. This is happening right now. And once you see the full picture of what's going on globally, it gets even crazier. So let's talk about it. The company is called Foundation Future Industries, and their CEO is a guy named Sankait Pathak. Now, Pathak isn't dancing around the mission here. When he was asked about it, he said, quote, "We have some kinetic things we're exploring. Kinetic things. That's defense industry speak for weapons systems." And he's not talking about some 10-year roadmap either. He says they'll probably unveil something within the next couple of months. Their robot is called the Phantom Mk1, and beyond straight-up combat, the company is pitching it for logistics, reconnaissance, and inspection work. But make no mistake, the headline use case here is a robot that can fight. And here's the part that really made me sit up. Foundation says they've already tested the Phantom Mk1 with Ukrainian forces. Ukraine has basically become the world's live testing ground for autonomous and semi-autonomous warfare. Aerial drones, small unmanned boats, compact ground vehicles, militaries everywhere are watching that conflict and taking notes. And now humanoids are entering that same pipeline. Because here's the thing about legs versus wheels or tracks. Legs can handle terrain that vehicles just can't. Rubble, stairs, doorways, collapsed buildings. The whole bet is that a humanoid could eventually do the jobs that currently get human soldiers killed. Now, before you assume this is some fringe startup fantasy, the US military has wanted this for a long time. DARPA, the Pentagon's mad science division, ran massive humanoid robotics contests between 2012 and 2015. And right now, the Army runs a program called X-Tech Humanoids, which literally funds the development of, quote, militarized humanoid capabilities. That's the actual language. So Foundation isn't inventing this demand out of thin air. They're just the first company aggressively targeting it. And so far, that's been a lucrative lane. We're talking government contracts worth millions of dollars. Although, let's put an asterisk on that. Because during a Fox Business segment back in April, the host was hyping up a $24 million Pentagon contract the company supposedly won, but once the details were actually examined, the picture got fuzzier. Foundation was only founded in 2024, and a few months in, they acquired a company called Boardwalk Robotics, which worked closely with the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition, IHMC, a Florida research nonprofit that's genuinely respected in the humanoid space. And when asked for contract details, Foundation pointed to 2 contracts inherited from Boardwalk and 3 that came through IHMC. So the company doesn't actually appear to have independently secured new government money on its own yet. The pedigree is real, but the a Pentagon contract framing, a bit generous. Which brings us to the Eric Trump factor. He's not just an investor here, he's the company's chief strategy advisor. And Pathak had this amazing line about him, saying people don't realize he's actually an engineer at heart, that he does a lot of milling at his home. Milling at his home. And on that same Fox segment, Eric Trump was gushing about the robots, how they fist bump you, high five you, follow your commands. Then he said bringing in AI autonomy would change industry, change military application, change hospitality, that the uses are unlimited, and direct quote, "I think it's a very beautiful thing. A robot that high fives you and also potentially carries a weapon system. Beautiful is one word for it." And since we're already talking about how businesses are using AI, here's something useful. Most of you voted for 7 AI agents businesses are paying $3,000 to $10,000 for right now in yesterday's poll. So we're giving it away for free. It breaks down the exact agents businesses are buying, what they cost, who needs them, and how to spot the right clients. It also covers the ROI, setup fees, retainers, and what a realistic $10,000 per month client list could look like, with 0 coding required. You can grab it through the link in the video description. All right, now back to the video. Okay, but here's where we need a reality check, because there's a massive gap between the marketing and the actual state of the technology. Robert Griffin, a senior research scientist at IHMC who led a project involving Boardwalk and advised the company technically, said right now it's difficult to disentangle the current state-of-the-art from the potential state-of-the-art. And he said building an actual robot soldier faces challenges, spanning basically the entire field of robotics. And look, humanoids genuinely have leveled up recently. Cheaper motors, better sensors, and AI training methods that let these things do parkour and kung fu in demos. But the moment you drop them into an unfamiliar environment, everything pretty much falls apart. Perception and navigation are still huge problems. These robots have incredible balance on terrain they've trained on, but new ground often requires specialized training all over again. And physical manipulation, actually grabbing and handling objects reliably, remains one of the biggest unsolved problems in the entire field. And yeah, that includes picking up a gun. Rodney Brooks, an MIT professor emeritus and an absolute legend in robotics, threw the coldest water on all of this. He expects it'll take more than a decade before humanoids can operate reliably in complex, unfamiliar settings. A combat robot would need to cross wildly different terrain, navigate rubble on stairs, get through blocked doors, and even once you nail that in a lab, he says going from a solid lab demo to initial deployment in robotics is always at least 10 more years. And then there's the ethical minefield, questions about reliability, about removing human judgment from decisions on lethal force. The whole thing conjures Terminator imagery whether you want it to or not. Pathak's response to all of that? Basically a shrug. He says the doomsday scenarios are, quote, very, very overblown for humanoids. And he's got this almost fatalistic pitch. He says, I wish I could end wars, but I don't think I can. But I can definitely contribute in making war more precise, reducing collateral damage as much as possible. Precision warfare through robots. That's the sell. Now, you might be tempted to write this all off as one company's hype cycle, but zoom out because the global context is what makes this story stronger. Just yesterday, July 17th, in Shenzhen, China, a company called Engine AI held what they billed as the world's first free humanoid robot fighting competition. It's called the Ultimate Robot Knockout Legend, URKL, held at the Shenzhen Nanshan Cultural and Sports Center. 32 teams from around the world, all piloting Engine AI's standardized platform, the T800. And yes, they actually named their fighting robot the T800. Subtlety is dead. It stands 1.73 meters tall and can throw uppercuts, spinning kicks, and pop back up after getting knocked down. The crowd went absolutely nuts when a white robot called White Eagle landed a clean high kick to the head of its black-clad opponent, Matador. But the moment everyone's talking about, a robot got its entire head knocked off mid-fight, losing all its head-mounted sensors, and it just kept fighting. Kept throwing punches, kept absorbing hits, finished the match running purely on torso-based core systems. Even Donnie Yen, the action movie star, was there, saying watching real robots fight up close was more impressive than anything he'd seen on film. And Engine AI's CEO Zhao Tongyang was very open about the purpose. The tournament validates mechanical balance, millisecond-level decision-making, multimodal sensor coordination, combat as R&D. Matches are even scored on effective strikes, stability, defense, and durability. So while America debates whether robot soldiers are ethical, China is stress testing combat robotics as public entertainment. And the manufacturing scale coming out of China is its own story. XPeng, the EV maker, is planning to push monthly production of its iron humanoid past 1,000 units by the end of this year, ahead of a global rollout in 2027. First quarter of 2027, Iron starts working as a shopping assistant in XPeng stores across China, then expands overseas. And Morgan Stanley analysts expect China's humanoid shipments to hit 50,000 units in 2026 and 100,000 next year. That's not prototype territory anymore. That's an industry. Meanwhile, this technology is already causing real-world chaos on the labor side. In Ulsan, South Korea, Hyundai's auto workers are on partial strike right now, the car industry's first factory stoppage over humanoid robots. When Hyundai unveiled its new Atlas robot in January in Las Vegas, 6'2", joints that swivel a full 360 degrees, the stock jumped 85% that month, and roughly 40,000 unionized workers collectively panicked. One union leader, Kwon Tae-kun, said he was genuinely shocked. that many workers felt they'd arrived at the era of cars being built by robots instead of human hands. Atlas costs around $130,000 per unit and pays for itself in about 2 years. It lifts 110 pounds instantly, 66 pounds sustained, runs 4 hours on a battery. Hyundai plans to deploy it by 2028 at its non-unionized Georgia Meta plant. And in June, they bought out SoftBank's remaining stake in Boston Dynamics entirely. So the workers are refusing 4 hours of work a day, potentially disrupting production of 5,000 vehicles and costing Hyundai over 200 billion won, about $134 million. Their demands are unprecedented: fixed salaries instead of hourly pay, raising retirement to 65, AI-related job guarantees, bigger bonuses. And this matters way beyond Korea. The country has the world's highest industrial robot density, over 6 times the global average. And an Oxford researcher, Carl Benedict Frey, says Hyundai is where the question of whether labor can push back against humanoids gets tested first. Tesla expects Optimus production by year's end, BMW is testing its Aeon robot in Germany, Xiaomi's running humanoids in EV plants, Mitsubishi wants mass production by early next year, and GM added dozens of cobots to its Detroit factory while laying off about 1,000 workers. The UAW's president, Shawn Fain, called this one of the most profound technological revolutions of our lifetimes, saying the human race has to master technology, not let it pass us by. And then, just to keep everyone humble about how far this tech actually is from being human-like, at the UN's AI for Good summit in Geneva, a Swiss firm called RB Labs showed off Robert the Robot, a 6-foot-something Tesla Optimus lookalike in a suit and tie whose screen face cycles between Trump, Obama, and Mark Zuckerberg. It's meant to mimic subtle nonverbal facial cues, and it is rough. Eyes drifting in different directions, cartoonish frowns snapping into gleeful smiles. The co-founder himself admitted nobody's mistaking it for the real Donald Trump. You can book it for trade shows and conferences, but not birthday parties, tragically. And remember, this is the same broader industry where those viral 2024 clips of Optimus serving drinks turned out to be human teleoperated marionettes. So that's the actual landscape. On one end, glitchy screen-faced robots and stage demos. On the other, a startup with Eric Trump on the payroll promising armed humanoids within months, combat tournaments in Shenzhen, and production lines scaling into the tens of thousands. Oh, and Foundation's big engineering milestone for the Phantom Mk2, the next version, it'll be the first one that's waterproof and dustproof. So, the robot super soldier can finally survive rain. If you found this one as fascinating as I did, drop a like, subscribe for more, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.